Back in the 1980s, Anya gave up the three-child grooms she had grown up with, each destined to become a top elite in the military, political, and business worlds, and chose instead to marry Devon Hayes, a cold-faced man from the compound who was already divorced and raising 3 kids. Her dad thought she had been possessed. After all, each of those three-child grooms was exceptional in his own right. Any one of them seemed better than a middle-aged man with children from a previous marriage, but he didn't know the truth. In her past life, she married the military elite her father favored the most, Lucas Bell. She brought with her a dowry worth a fortune, but Lucas's heart was always with his country. Just 1 month after their wedding, he died in an accident. She was devastated beyond words. Then came Noah Stone, a rising political star who offered to marry her. She was filled with hope and joy and accepted, but on the day of their wedding, Noah was assassinated on the spot. While people accused her of bringing misfortune and even death to her husbands, Ethan Clark, a renowned business magnate, stepped forward and married her in a grand ceremony, silencing all the rumors. But even Ethan died on their wedding day, poisoned by an old enemy. 3 husbands, 3 deaths. She was branded a cursed woman. In the end, no one dared marry her. She lived out her life alone and miserable, but after her death, her spirit saw something that shattered her. Those 3 men who were supposed to have died had faked their deaths and were now surrounding her stepsister Clara, swearing their loyalty to her. Only then did she realize the person they had truly loved all along was Clara. They resented Anya for always picking on her, and to avenge her, they staged their deaths to deceive Anya. When she opened her eyes again, she had returned to that day when her father asked her whom she wanted to marry. "Bookmark, go back. You've always clung to Lucas since you were a kid," he said. "You'll probably choose little Lucas for the wedding next week, right?" "Honestly, I agree. He's a solid pick." She suddenly screamed, startling him. In front of her stood not the frail, starving man from her past life, but her father in his full health and strength. Yet tears flooded down her cheeks without warning. In her past life, she had married 3 times, and with each dowry, she drained every cent her father had. In the end, the man who had once been a wealthy and respected healer died of starvation. Watching him now frantically pulling out a handkerchief to wipe her tears, she couldn't hold back anymore. "Dad, I've made my decision. I want to marry Devon Hayes." Her father leapt from his chair in shock. "What? You want to marry that divorced man with 3 kids? That's not acceptable." He was so stunned he dropped his smoking pipe. "I picked out 3 child grooms for you. How can you not want even one of them?" She lowered her head and stayed silent. It wasn't that she didn't care about them. She still remembered their tragic deaths after marrying her. Those moments of grief and despair were burned into her memory. After a long pause, she finally said, "Dad, I want to marry Devon Hayes. I'm willing to honor the engagement made back then." The moment she mentioned the engagement, her father's expression shifted. No one had known that Devon and Anya once had a verbal marriage agreement. But because the Hayes family was powerful, her dad had worried she'd be mistreated after marrying in, so he found her 3 child grooms instead. Who could have imagined that those 3 would grow up into ungrateful traitors, white-eyed wolves who stole all their family's wealth and left the country with Clara to live a perfect, happy life, leaving them to fend for themselves. Even at the moment of his death, her father had muttered that he wished he could eat just one more steamed cornbread bun. So, in this life, she didn't want those child grooms who faked their deaths for her stepsister. She only wanted Devon. After getting her father's approval, she stepped out of the study. Just outside, she saw the 3 of them, Lucas, Noah, and Ethan, surrounding Clara, who was dressed in a white gown, laughing and joking with her. The moment they saw Anya, their laughter stopped. In the past, seeing that would have made her burn with shame. She would have lashed out at Clara in anger, only to anger the 3 of them in return. But this time, she didn't even spare them a glance. She turned around and went straight back to her room. As she closed the door, someone grabbed her wrist. "Didn't you hear Clara calling you?" It was Ethan, staring at her angrily. Facing Ethan's furious face, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of disgust. The tension between them didn't bother Clara at all. With teary eyes, she dropped to her knees in front of Anya. "Sis, I never meant to steal your fiancé, but I couldn't control how I felt." Seeing Anya unmoved, Lucas suddenly picked her up in his arms. "That's enough, Clara. You did nothing wrong. If Anya's family hadn't threatened me with a debt of gratitude for raising me, I would never have agreed to be some damn child groom. He turned to Anya coldly. Let me tell you, Anya, I will never marry you. The only person I truly love is Clara. If you really care about me, you should let me go. Seeing Lucas look so crazed for love made Anya feel a little confused. She clearly remembered that in her last life, Lucas didn't refuse to marry her. So why was he rejecting her now? Could it be he was reborn too? But even if he was, what did it matter? In this life, she would never have anything to do with any of them again. Fine, Anya said. I'll let you go. You really mean that? He asked, stunned. I do, she replied calmly with a nod. But to her surprise, Lucas's face twisted into a look of deep sarcasm. Anya, do you really think I'm going to fall for your lies again? What are you planning, to drug me again like you tried to last year? At the mention of drugging, Noah and Ethan, who had been standing to the side, burst out laughing. Yeah, Noah sneered. Everyone in Hunt Compound knows our precious little miss here nearly went to insane lengths just to marry Lucas. Ethan added with a mocking grin. Didn't she almost trap him with that little drugging stunt at his birthday party? Their harsh words made her face go pale. Anya had explained 1,000 times that Lucas had been drugged at his birthday party by someone else, not her. But no matter how many times she denied it, they wouldn't believe her. They insisted Anya was obsessed with Lucas and had tried to seduce him by force, hoping to tie him down with a scandal. She opened her mouth to defend herself again. But just then she heard the butler's enthusiastic voice from the foyer. Mr. Hayes, what a surprise. What brings you here today? The moment the name Devon Hayes was spoken, the expressions on all three of their faces changed instantly, because despite being called elites, none of them could compare to the real deal standing at the top, Devon Hayes. Before him, they didn't even have the right to be noticed. Without a word, and without even glancing at him, the three of them turned and slipped out from the other side of the massive villa in a hurry. Anya stood there listening to the sound of Devon's boots as they climbed the steps, and a strange nervousness rose in her chest. Why was he here? Did her dad inform him that quickly? While she was still wrestling with the thought, a beautifully wrapped box was handed to her. For the wedding in 7 days, he said. This is the dress I had made for you. She looked up in surprise, meeting the handsome face in front of her. You agreed? The corners of Devon's lips curled into a smile. Of course. I've admired you for quite some time, Miss Lynn. His words were clearly flirtatious, maybe even teasing, and yet for some reason, she almost believed him. Her face flushed uncontrollably, and she spun around and darted back into her room. Even through the closed door, she could still hear his soft laughter echo in the hallway. Later, after she had calmed down, someone knocked on the door again. Anya didn't want to answer, but the person outside seemed especially persistent. In the end, she had no choice but to open the door in frustration. What do you want now? She snapped. Why is it you again? Lucas stood there, his brow furrowed so tightly it looked like it might snap. Who else did you think it was, Anya? He continued. I've made up my mind. I'm going to marry Clara. If you give us your blessing, I'm willing to still see you as my sister. And what if I don't? She asked. Lucas's eyes narrowed slightly, a dangerous glint flashing in them. Then let me remind you, going against the three of us will do the Lynn family no good. Anya went cold all over. Of course she knew better than anyone how much they cared about Clara. Hadn't she seen it all firsthand in her last life? Fine, she said quietly. I'll give you my blessing. But I want to know, how do you plan to repay my father for everything he did for you? At that, Lucas's usually frosty expression actually softened a little. I'll give up everything and take Clara away from here. Anya raised an eyebrow in surprise. She hadn't expected him to go that far for Clara. Lucas had climbed his way up in the military through real grit and discipline. Even the top brass had publicly praised him. But now he was saying he'd give all that up. Still, just because Lucas was willing didn't mean Clara would be. Anya's unexpected blessing seemed to earn her a rare moment of civility from him. I know you liked me, Lucas said. But it was Clara who saved us three when we were trapped in that snowstorm years ago. We swore to the heavens back then that we'd protect her for the rest of our lives. Anya stared at him wide-eyed, almost unable to believe what she was hearing. A terrifying thought suddenly struck her. You mean during the rescue mission when there was that avalanche? He nodded. Yeah, that night. She defied everyone's warnings, climbed the snow-covered mountain alone, and risked her life to get us out. That's when I fell in love with her. The emotion in his eyes didn't seem fake, but Anya couldn't help it. She burst out laughing. What's so funny? He demanded. I'm laughing because all three of you are blind. You don't even know who actually saved your lives. No wonder your feelings changed so suddenly. All of you turning your backs on me to cozy up to Clara. So someone else had taken credit for what she had done. She shook her head with a bitter chuckle. Just remembered something. That's all. As she lowered her gaze, she caught sight of Clara walking over and nestling close to Lucas's side with that same calculated sweetness she remembered all too well. Lucas, can I talk to my sister alone for a moment? Clara asked sweetly. Lucas gave a doting nod and obediently went downstairs to wait. The moment he left, Clara's entire expression changed. Anya Lynn, you're disgusting. Lucas has already decided to marry me, and you're still throwing yourself at him. What? Scared they'll find out it wasn't you who saved them back then? Anya's pupils trembled. You know, she whispered. But she quickly regained her composure and let out a mocking laugh. So what if you do? They already believe it was me who saved them. Anya Lynn, you were born to be my stepping stone, just like your pathetic mom. Anya stared at her, eyes wide, her voice shaking. What do you mean? Clara raised a brow smugly, a twisted smile playing on her lips. You don't even know how easy your idiot mother was to manipulate. I casually mentioned I was 3 months younger than you, and she lost her mind and jumped off a building. Honestly, we should thank her for dying so quickly. If she hadn't, my mom wouldn't have taken her place so easily. Anya couldn't hold back the fury exploding in her chest. She raised her hand and slapped her hard, but just as her palm was about to land, she let out a smug laugh and threw herself backward. A terrible sense of dread surged through Anya. With a sharp scream, Clara tumbled down the staircase. Lucas rushed over and knelt at her side in a panic, but Clara gently placed her hand on his cheek, whispering, Lucas, don't blame my sister. It's my fault I stole you from her. She has every right to be upset. Noah and Ethan charged into the room. The moment they saw Clara lying there barely breathing, their eyes turned red with rage as they stared at Anya with hatred. Anya collapsed to the ground, shaking her head, repeating over and over, It wasn't me. She fell on her own. But all she got in return was Lucas's cold, bitter smile. I thought you'd learned your lesson, Anya. I thought you understood that love can't be forced, but clearly not. He turned to Ethan. Lock her in the isolation room until I say otherwise. No one is to let her out. Cradling Clara in his arms with a face full of anguish, Lucas turned and walked away. Anya, overwhelmed and powerless, was dragged away in tears. They threw her into a tiny, suffocating isolation room. The cramped space made her heart pound wildly, her breath growing short, her face flushed and hot. They knew full well Anya had claustrophobia, but for Clara, they ignored her life-threatening fear. The panic spread through her body like poison. Her breathing slowed, then shallowed. She truly thought she was going to die. Just as she was losing consciousness, the isolation room door was kicked open with a violent crash. Before everything faded, she heard the rapid pounding of combat boots coming closer. When Anya opened her eyes again, the blinding overhead light pierced through her. Her father's face filled her blurry vision, eyes wide in shock and joy. Anya, you're awake. Thank God. You've been unconscious for 5 days. 5 days. That meant the wedding was the day after tomorrow. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw 3 familiar figures kneeling neatly at her bedside. Seeing Lucas's still defiant expression made her chest tighten with irritation. Dad, she said, forcing herself to speak. Just let it go? The wedding's almost here. Her father closed his eyes with a pained sigh. All right, if that's what you want. The 3 of them looked stunned, clearly in disbelief. In the past, if Anya had been hurt because of them, they would have been punished to within an inch of their lives. But now she ignored their shifting expressions and simply urged her father, Please take me home. I need to get ready. There's garbage that needs to be taken out before the wedding. As soon as they got back, she went straight to the attic. It was filled with everything from her years growing up with those 3, handwritten notes, sketchbooks full of portraits, yellowing photographs, unsent love letters. Every item was soaked in the memories of her youth. Each one Anya had once treasured she now cleared out piece by piece, as if emptying her heart along with them. By the time she was finished, night had already fallen. She returned to her bedroom and fell asleep the moment her head hit the pillow. A rustling sound woke her. She found her hands and feet tied tightly. She was stuffed into the wardrobe. Through the narrow slats of the closet door, she saw Clara humming a cheerful tune as she tried on Anya's wedding dress. Just as she slipped it on, there was a knock at the door. As soon as the door opened, the person outside leaned in and kissed her without hesitation. Clara's eyes turned hazy from the kiss, but she still didn't forget to shoot Anya a taunting glance. In a breathy voice, she murmured, "Lucas, once you marry my sister, what's going to happen to me?" "After you marry her," she continued sweetly, "just find some excuse to say I died. Once that's done, Noah and Ethan can slip away too. Then we'll all be yours forever." Outside the wardrobe, their intimacy continued without shame. Inside, Anya's heart was clenched so tightly it physically hurt. When Clara finally flung open the wardrobe door, Anya was already in tears. Clara's body was marked, disheveled, and she stood in front of Anya like a victor. "You know, the first time I saw you, I hated you so much. Why were you the precious daughter of the Lin family? Why was I just a maid's child? From that day on, I swore I'd take everything that was yours." She leaned in closer, a twisted smile on her face. "Tomorrow at the wedding, just wait. I'll make sure you become the biggest disgrace in this entire compound." Leaving those words hanging in the air, she turned and left, triumphant. Anya sat alone inside that wardrobe all night. It wasn't until the wedding team hired by her father arrived the next morning that she finally struggled out of the ropes. She slipped into the wedding dress Devon Hayes had prepared for her and headed to the ceremony. Anya knew everything would end today. Wearing the gown he chose, she walked down the red carpet step by step and stood calmly waiting for the groom. Time passed, long past the appointed hour. Whispers spread among the guests below the stage. Finally, the doors burst open. Anya's heart, which had been held high with anticipation, dropped instantly when she saw who entered: Noah and Ethan. They gave her a smug, mocking smile and loudly declared, "The groom won't be coming today, folks." But before they could finish, the main doors were thrown open again. "Who says I'm not coming?" came a deep voice. Devon Hayes stepped into view, immediately drawing gasps from the crowd. "Wait, wasn't it supposed to be Noah?" someone began to ask. Anya didn't let them finish. She snatched the mic from the officiant and announced loudly to everyone, "Let me introduce my husband, Devon Hayes of Harlow." Devon stepped up and laced his fingers with Anya's, a confident, proud smile on his lips. The entire crowd was stunned, but under Devon's steady, commanding gaze, they quickly burst into thunderous applause. Compliments flew freely through the room like confetti. It was a festive scene, except for Noah and Ethan, whose faces had gone completely stiff. "Anya Lin, you really went all out," Peter sneered. "Tell us, how much did your billionaire daddy have to pay to get Commander Hayes to play along with this act?" Their barbed words made her stomach turn. Here they were again, pretending to be noble and righteous. But the truth was they had climbed to where they were using her father's resources. Every time they faced trouble, it was her father who stepped in to clean up the mess. Devon noticed the change in Anya's expression. He gently patted the back of her hand and stepped forward, placing himself directly in front of their sneering gazes. "I'm not blind," Devon said coolly. "I don't mistake trash for treasure, and I certainly don't bite the hand that feeds me." His words silenced the room. Everyone present knew exactly what he meant. After all, everyone knew Noah, Ethan, and Lucas had only received the Lin family's support because they were raised as child grooms in their home. But those words, so casually spoken, were like gasoline on fire to them. Of all things, the one they hated most was hearing the term child groom. It was the greatest shame for these so-called prodigies who had always seen themselves as better than everyone else. Over the years, as they made names for themselves in their respective fields, people had gradually stopped mentioning their pasts, but now Devon had exposed the truth for all to hear. Their faces turned as black as coal. Anger and humiliation flickered across their expressions before finally settling into a sneer. "Devon Hayes," Noah scoffed. "Do you even know what kind of woman you just married? You think she's some innocent heiress?" He was getting more brazen, completely ignoring Devon's steadily darkening expression. "Bet you didn't know our little Miss Lin was so desperate she drugged a man just to get into bed with him. Just a used-up tramp." Slap. Bang. A gunshot rang out at the same time as a sharp slap. The wedding guests screamed, diving for cover in a panic. Noah dropped to his knees, clutching his leg and crying out in pain. Ethan staggered back, clutching his reddened face, eyes wide in disbelief. The man who'd struck them was none other than their revered mentor, Mr. Chun. "You ungrateful bastards," he roared. "Mr. Lin gave you everything, treated you like his own sons, and this is how you repay him? You're not even fit to call yourselves human." Noah and Ethan stared at Mr. Chun in stunned confusion. They couldn't understand why the teacher who had always treated them like family would suddenly turn against them. But Anya, standing there silently, only smiled coldly. She knew the truth. Back then, when her father brought those boys into the Lin household, he had been worried he wouldn't be able to raise them well enough on his own. Her father, George Lin, had paid a fortune to invite Mr. Chun. The Chun family had been renowned Confucian scholars for generations, and though Mr. Chun had long since retired from teaching, her father swallowed his pride as one of the wealthiest men in the region and publicly knelt just to ask him to take those 3 boys as students. Eventually, it was her father's sincerity that moved Mr. Chun. He broke his own rule and took in Lucas, Noah, and Ethan as his private disciples. It was only because of that mentorship that they were introduced early on to members of high society and built the connections that paved the way for their future success in business, politics, and the military. But they always thought it was because of their own natural talent that Mr. Chin saw something special in them. How ridiculous. If it weren't for her father, those 3 would probably still be out picking through garbage just to feed themselves. As Noah and Ethan stood stunned under Mr. Chin's furious scolding, the doors to the hall burst open again. 2 people tightly bound with ropes were thrown inside. Everyone turned to look, and sure enough, it was Clara and Lucas. They were both a mess, their clothes wrinkled and faces dirty. The luggage they brought with them had been ripped open, spilling out gold bars and other valuables. The moment Lucas saw Anya, he began shouting, "Anya Lin, forced love never tastes sweet. Have some self-respect. I already told you I'd rather die than marry you. You can tie me up once, but you can't control me forever." Anya raised an eyebrow. He still hadn't realized what was going on. He actually thought she was the one begging to marry him. But before Anya could say anything, someone else stepped forward for her. "You think marrying George Lin's daughter is some kind of insult?" Her father's stern voice rang out. Lucas's arrogant expression immediately faltered. No matter how impressive they tried to look outside, whenever they stood before her father, the man who funded them, raised them, and trained them, they couldn't hide their unease. Lucas swallowed hard, his eyes darting nervously. The silver-tongued man who was always so good at arguing couldn't say a single word. He could only stare helplessly as her father, dressed in a traditional Zhongshan suit, came to stand right in front of him. Clara quickly dropped to her knees, tears brimming in her eyes. She crawled over and grabbed her father's pants leg. "Dad, I've always only seen Anya as your real daughter." Her father abruptly cut her off, his voice sharp with suppressed rage. Clara flinched, but forced herself to keep speaking. "Uncle, Lucas and I are truly in love. Anya already has everything. Why does she have to break us apart too?" Beside Anya, Devon Hayes let out a low laugh, like he had just heard the world's most ironic joke. "And who's really the one breaking others apart?" He said coldly. "Clara, did you think your little scheme all those years ago was flawless? Seems like you won't cry until you see the coffin." Clara's face went white, panic flashing in her eyes. "What are you talking about? That's nonsense." But Devon didn't even look at her. He simply raised his hand and signaled someone to enter. A wave of dread swept over Clara as a man was dragged in and thrown to the floor beside her, covered in blood and barely conscious. The man was instantly recognized by Lucas, Noah, and Ethan. Dr. Wu, the physician who had saved their lives during the avalanche years ago. Using the last of his strength, Dr. Wu lunged forward and clutched Clara's neck. "You filthy woman. You seduced me into helping you forge the rescue records, and then you tried to kill me to destroy the evidence. If I hadn't been lucky enough to survive, you would have gotten away with it." Clara gasped, eyes rolling back as his fingers tightened. Only then did the others rush forward to pull him off her. Even as he was dragged away, Dr. Wu kept shouting, spilling everything Clara had tried so hard to bury. The truth spilled out like beans from a broken jar, revealing all her deceit, and filth to the world. The faces of the three men twisted into expressions of disbelief. "You're joking," Lucas muttered. "You're saying it was Anya who saved us back then?" "No, that can't be. She was traveling overseas during that time." But his voice grew weaker as the truth slowly dawned on him. He rushed over to Anya and yanked up her sleeve, revealing the old, jagged scars winding across her arm. He collapsed to the floor. "It was really you. It was you who saved us." Noah and Ethan's expressions shifted instantly as well, the color draining from their faces. Clara, now exposed, stood frozen in place, pale as death and unable to speak a single word. When Devon saw Lucas still gripping Anya's wrist, he narrowed his eyes, raised his leg, and kicked him hard. Lucas tumbled across the floor. "You blind idiot." Devon spat. "Stay the hell away from her. Don't dirty Anya's hands." Clara, who seemed to still care for Lucas, rushed over to help him up the moment he hit the ground. But not everyone was willing to look the other way. Someone nearby shoved Clara aside with a cold flick of their arm. "Get lost." Clara's eyes were truly red now. She clung tightly to Lucas, still trying to explain, her voice trembling. "Lucas, you have to believe me. I was really the one who saved you back then. Don't you remember how Anya always loved throwing her money around? She must have bribed Dr. Wu to lie and trick you." But Lucas had regained his senses by now. His voice was filled with fury. "Nonsense. I saw it with my own eyes. My arm was sliced by an icicle, and we three grown men were bedridden for nearly 2 weeks. How is it that you, the so-called rescuer, didn't have a single scratch? You lied to me. You lied to all of us." Clara shook her head and sobbed like a pitiful flower drenched in rain, but no trace of sympathy flickered in Lucas's eyes. Those who had once faked their deaths just to escape Anya now knelt at her feet, filled with guilt and remorse. But Anya simply leaned slightly toward Devon Hayes. He understood her immediately. "Take them away," he ordered. Devon's men acted swiftly. In no time, the wedding venue was cleared of all disruption, not a trace of the previous chaos left behind. The elite guests present also quickly composed themselves, behaving as if nothing had ever happened. Devon led Anya through the remainder of the ceremony. When it came time to offer tea to her new mother-in-law, Anya was stunned to see one of the most dignified socialites in the compound crying like a child, completely disregarding her image. She clutched Anya's hands emotionally and said, "Anya, dear, thank you. Thank you for marrying my no-good son. I have to explain about that second marriage rumor. That wasn't real. He only got married for a mission assigned by his unit. It was fake." Anya looked over at Devon, surprised. In her past life, he never remarried until his death. She'd always assumed he was mourning for someone named Wang Qi, but now she knew the truth. "And those 3 kids," she added eagerly, "they're adopted. Devon's never had a real wife. Devon's never had a real wife. My son's still pure." As she rambled further, her words grew increasingly outrageous. Embarrassed, Devon quickly cut her off. His face, always so calm and composed, was now burning red at the ears. Anya couldn't help letting out a soft laugh. When he heard her, Devon paused, then slowly laced his fingers through Anya's, a smug smile playing at the corners of his lips, like a cat that had stolen a fish. It was a day of celebration, and Devon kept pouring Anya drink after drink. By the time he carried her bridal style into their new bedroom, she was already tipsy, but what greeted them inside stunned everyone. On the bright red wedding bed were 4 tangled bodies. The clash of red and white was shocking, and the shameless scene had everyone's jaws on the floor. Before Anya could even react, Devon quickly covered her eyes with his hand, blocking her view. Through the blurred gaps between his fingers, she could only see tangled limbs. She struggled, trying to pull his hand away, but he whispered low in her ear, his tone laced with concern, "Don't look, it's bad luck." Gasps and exclamations echoed around the room. The 4 figures on the bed finally seemed to realize what was happening and scrambled to cover themselves. Devon moved fast. In less than an hour, he had uncovered everything. Turns out, after Clara's plans completely fell apart, she grew desperate. She tried to drug Lucas, hoping to force him into marrying her, but the wine she prepared was mistakenly consumed by Noah and Ethan as well. What was meant to be a 2-person scandal turned into an all-out 4-person disaster. Seeing no way out, Clara dragged them all down with her. She figured her life was already ruined. Might as well bring them with her. After that, Anya's father finally saw them for what they were. 3 ungrateful idiots. Not only did he throw them out of the Lin family for good, he also cut off every connection and opportunity he'd ever opened for them. From that point on, they were on their own. As for Anya, she could only say one thing: they deserved it. In her past life, the 3 of them faked their deaths to run off, ruined her reputation, stole her family fortune, all just to protect Clara. This time, fate came full circle. They got exactly what was coming to them. After the chaos of the wedding banquet, Devon arranged a second ceremony to make it up to Anya. This time, it was just close family. Under their blessings, they officially became husband and wife. Married life was sweet as honey. Devon treated Anya like a queen. If she so much as mentioned a craving at night, it'd be on her table by morning. He spoiled her so much it was almost frightening. Anya started to feel uneasy. One day she finally couldn't help asking, "Why are you so good to me?" Devon gently played with her hand and said, "Back when I was little, some spoiled little girl took advantage of me because she thought I was good-looking, stole my first kiss, and then completely forgot about it like it never happened." Anya blinked, confused, staring at him as she searched through her memories. And then suddenly, a scene surfaced, so vivid it made her face burn. Before her father adopted the 3 child grooms, he used to leave Anya at the neighbor's house whenever he got too busy with work. She was a total face addict back then, and she shamelessly took full advantage of being young. She was always all over the handsome older boy next door. One day she even stole his first kiss without a second thought. As the heat crept up her face, Devon's satisfied smile deepened. "You know, some heartless girl used to chase me around every day shouting, 'I'm gonna marry you, big brother. I'm gonna marry you.' Then she grew up and forgot all about me." Anya's cheeks turned red as a tomato. Flustered and embarrassed, she reached out and pinched his waist in retaliation, but Devon just laughed and pulled her into his arms. "Good thing someone else didn't recognize your worth," he whispered. "Otherwise I might not have had the chance." Only then did Anya realize that when he gave her the wedding dress and said he'd admired her for a long time, he wasn't joking. Thank goodness fate gave her a second chance. Later, she heard about the others at a banquet. Stripped of the Lin family's protection, the 3 of them eventually became nobodies. Once hailed as prodigies, they fell from grace. One even became addicted to gambling. They lost everything, even Clara, the one they claimed to love so deeply in Anya's past life. They ended up selling her. Unable to cope with the reality of her downfall, Clara set a fire that consumed all of them. No remains were ever recovered. They vanished, erased by time. When she heard the news, Anya quietly tightened her grip on Devon's hand. Turning her head, she saw her father looking at her with gentle, loving eyes. This time around, she had no more regrets.